Good afternoon, everyone. I'd first like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging, and also any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today. My name is Douglas McCarthy. I've worked as a civil engineer, as a secondary and tertiary teacher. I've been an active trade unionist and also a community activist. I'm a member of the Australian Labor Party and of Labor Against War. Just imagine, if you will, a world where humanity could all get along. And who knows, we even might collaborate to fix our planet. We do this sort of collaboration all our lives while trying to maintain our own friendships at a personal level, where two key principles apply. You don't harm your friends, either physically or mentally, and you don't exploit your friends. That's to say, using your friends for your personal benefit at their expense. These ethical principles are fundamental within the trade union movement, which of course was foundational to Labor parties all around the world. Opposition to war is a logical extension of these principles because it is overwhelmingly working people who suffer the most, the death and the devastation in war. Nuclear war would be the most catastrophic, and so within the Australian Labor Party there's been a long-standing policy opposition to nuclear weapons and nuclear power in Australia. Until AUKUS. So of course there continues to be opposition to this change to long-standing policy by acquiring nuclear-powered submarines, which we believe would open the door for the LNP power stations and nuclear weapons program. Just, if you can bear it, read today's Advertiser. Of course there's recognition that $386 billion could be better spent with non-nuclear powered submarines filling our Australian defence needs, rather than bolstering America's anti-China Cold War, sparking possibly a regional arms race, and, in worst case scenario, an actual hot war with China. And of course the massive savings could be better used to address social housing, free tertiary education, the aged care tsunami and renewable energy targets, not to mention actual regional assistance for our neighbours. And that is why Labor Against War exists right around Australia to build the opposition to AUKUS within the Australian Labor Party. But AUKUS is not just a question of budgetary or even defence issues. It requires a worldview and a view of Australia's position within the world. The United Kingdom, America, and perhaps to a lesser degree Australia, come with some pretty ugly baggage. European imperialism and settler colonialism. Shrouded in the mythology of bringing enlightenment and commerce and salvation and glory, of course, to the brave lads of the Thin Red Line, the reality was gunpowder and cannon and racism ensuring the slaughter and dispossession and utter exploitation of native peoples. From the Dutch in the Banda Islands, just north of us in present-day Indonesia, way back in 1621, would you believe, to North America, Australia, Africa, and the last gasp of European settler colonialism, the horrors in Palestine today. So AUKUS has quite a pedigree. What a marvellous basis for respect in the world, especially when this alliance has frozen the Labor government's ability to respond to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, even if it is thawing a little bit. We have the danger of America's imperialist hegemony in decline, the UK's imperialism reduced to nostalgia, and Australia reduced to a cringe-worthy subservience. Is this all we aspire to? There's also a question of democratic process and democracy. Not only was this a momentous decision to tag along with Scott Morrison's secretive AUKUS deal taken preemptively by a small group of the national leadership, the ALP, there was scant regard for democratic process within the party, and not even the fig leaf of democratic involvement of citizens with, for instance, a public inquiry. Now, I don't believe the people of Fremantle or Port Adelaide or Port Kembla have been asked how they feel about having highly enriched uranium nuclear reactors in their communities. Maybe they'll be happy with the issuing of iodine tablets to their workplaces, childcare centres, schools and homes, just in case. And are the good citizens of Perth, Adelaide, Wollongong, and Sydney South and beyond happy with the possibility of cesium-137 contamination, making their homes, indeed suburbs, unsafe for human habitation in the event of a nuclear spent fuel excursion, either by accident or act of war? Because that's what happened at Chernobyl. It only took 27 kilograms of cesium-137 to make 2,600 square kilometres of Ukraine and Belarus uninhabitable to this day. Democracy depends on each citizen carefully evaluating issues. This can be done every 3 or 4 years as each citizen evaluates the whole suite of policies presented by the various parties at general elections. But many issues arise between elections, such as the ratification of AUKUS. Protest actions such as this are a necessity to raise awareness of the issue and build opposition within the community. But the policies that will be presented at the general elections are formulated within the various parties between elections too. Labor Against War will be doing that work inside the ALP and inside the trade union movement, while democratic processes still allow us. Please consider the fewer the voices raised internally within the ALP against AUKUS, the harder it will be to change this awful policy. It's not enough to just hope it will fall over. We want to build a better world that we can imagine, where Australia is an exemplar of peacemaking, neighbourly friendship and humanitarianism. AUKUS takes us in the opposite direction.